Major Troller Green wants to introduce a bill to award the Congressional Gold Medal to Kile. So for those of you who don't know, this is the highest honor that Congress can give to people. And there's several individuals on the right who are saying that this is a little bit too much. This is going a little bit overboard. There needs to be some breaks to this train. And I heavily disagree. I think more needs to be done. There is more work to be done. I think you should give him the Purple Heart. Rename a city after him. Create a national holiday. Why not? Because you know the progressives would do it. How many times? In fact, last week alone, I can give you 5 examples where you have people say, can you imagine if the conservatives behave like this? Can you imagine the outrage? Can you imagine just how it would be like if the conservatives would do it? Now you have a golden opportunity to actually do it. And it's harmless. It doesn't hurt anyone. It just pisses off people. And I'm like, okay, why not? Why not? Because I see the blue check mark seething on Twitter. And I wonder, what is the limit? I'm doing like medical experiments right now. I'm looking on the Twitter and I'm like, what is the limit of seething? Like, for how long can a human being seethe? Because like you see them seething in first day, right? They get angry. And they get angrier the next day. And they're the angriest the third day. And you're wondering, like, how long can a human being stay angry? Like, just close Twitter, for heaven's sake. Go out, spend some time with your family. Do something else that's productive. No, they're on Twitter and they're being angry. And it's been several weeks now and they're still angry. And I'm thinking, like, at one point they will stop to be angry. And I'm curious, like, when will that be? But, like, the trigger needs to keep going so I can fulfill my experiment. You know, it kind of reminds me when I went through similar phases. It was with Greta Thunberg several years ago, right? You have Greta Thunberg coming up, and she's everywhere. Like, literally everywhere. I couldn't get away from her. On every website, on every page, on every Twitter post, I would get out of my house and I would pass a library and I would see her in the bookshelf smiling at me. And she's like, hey, the carbon, it's killing the planet. And I'm like, okay, well, then go tell China. No, you're to blame. You're eating meat, so you're murdering Gaia. And I'm like, okay, but like, shouldn't you lecture the people in power who are using private jets in order to go around? Like, shouldn't you fix that problem first? Go tell them that. No, they're the ones fixing the problem. You're just leave me alone, Greta. How dare you? And, you know, like, after a while, I was a little bit upset that the conversation isn't going the way that I would want to, and that I'm being blamed for all of the problems of humanity. And I just decided to just switch it off, just turn it off, and just stop reading those websites. But with the people that are upset at Kile, no, that they keep getting upset. And I'm curious, like, is there a limit? Like, are they going to reach a point where they're just going to be like, hey, you know what, we don't care? Not to mention, how many times didn't the progressives pull out a hero out of their ass and say, look, this brave actor, this brave football player, he's getting harassment on the Twitter. Like, he's getting people sending him mean words on the Twitter. You know what we need to do? We need to censor the internet. We need to remove internet anonymity. In fact, that's actually something they're trying to do in the UK right now. Apparently, making sure people don't get mean words on the Twitter is not as important as maintaining internet anonymity. So, why would you, a right-winger, be like, oh, well, no, this is a little bit too much. This is a little bit too much. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. I'm not seeing the right-winger trying to push for legislation while using Kile as a scapegoat. It's like, the left wanted this to be political. They're the ones that said, hey, we need to make everything political. Okay, well, we're making this political then, fine. Shouldn't have been. I don't understand why a Latinx person defending himself, according to the jury, by the way, defending himself against 3 white people while protecting minority-owned businesses is white supremacy. The left came up with this. And it's like, okay, well, you've made it political. And now you're upset that politicians are trying to do photo ops with this kid? Tough shit. You started it. But, you know, like, there's another thing that should be said about all of this. Notice how all of these politicians, all of these right-wingers, didn't say anything 2 weeks ago. Like, when the trial was still going, they didn't say a single word. Why? Because they wanted it to be safe. They wanted it, like even though you have video evidence of the footage, and it is so obvious. I mean, the guy is running away. There's people saying that they're going to kill him. There's a guy bashing him in the head with a skateboard. There's another guy kicking him in the head. There's a guy pulling a gun at him. I mean, it's so obvious to the point where I said, maybe I'm a little bit ideologically inclined. Maybe I got a little bit of ideological bias. So I showed the footage to my wife. I showed the footage to some Romanian friends. Every single person that saw it said, no, this is self-defense. Like, why is he even in court? So, just so you know, like, this is international. It's worldwide. It's not just on the Twitter or the right-wingers on YouTube. Like, any person that's honest. The only people that don't realize this are either dishonest people or people who never saw the footage themselves. They didn't look at the footage. They didn't listen to the trial. So, my point is, like, you have right-wingers who have been silent all along because they wanted to play safe. Because if they would have shown support for Kile and it would have turned out that he is guilty, now the media would have been up their ass. This is the level of weakness that the voter doesn't really appreciate. Because the difference between the right and the left is that the left would take risks. And by the way, this risk would have been worth it. I mean, you look at the footage, 100% self-defense, right? And if a GOP member would have said, well, the media was lying about him, he never crossed state lines with a gun, the gun was legal, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you would have said these things a couple of weeks ago, the mainstream media would have been up their ass, and now they would have probably been able to sue as well. But they're cowards. They don't do what the left would do. Like the progressives, remember Maxine Waters issuing her statement before a verdict. There's so many examples where progressives don't really care about any of that and they will say what they think. But the right doesn't do that. So that is something that people need to point out. Like, where were these people a couple of weeks ago? Secondly, there's a police officer who apparently got fired because he donated to the defense fund for Kile. And now he wants his job back. And I think he should get his job back because it's absolutely ridiculous. So there's this new shift in culture that the progressives are pushing for, which is that if you give money for someone's defense lawyer, it's somehow morally reprehensible. And I don't understand, since when did we agree that's the case? Since when the society agreed that every single person, no matter what they did, have the right to an attorney? You can't have a legal system without this, because what's the point in following the laws then? Because if you get convicted or something, you're going to go to prison anyway because people are going to make sure you don't get an attorney. And yeah, by the way, like, progressives apparently send death threats and try to harass this attorney. Like, this is what the mafia used to do, by the way. These are mafia tactics coming back alive today. It is so bizarre seeing them. And it's even more bizarre that people aren't outraged about it. Like, if I was a right-winger, I would have constantly hammered on about how the Kile's attorney said that he got death threats and he got all these bad stuff. Because, like, the left created the perfect cultural system where people care about bad words online, right? Or bad words over the phone. In my opinion, bad words over the phone is a little bit worse than bad words online. But okay, whatever. So this is the conversation that should be sparked. And this is why I'm not against seeing Kile coming up and up again on the news. Let me know what you guys think, though. And I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.